Satman stood to one side, reverentially looking upon Radha and Krishna as their worshipper and protector. This was the culmination of months of effort. Actually, years of planning had preceded this auspicious occasion. 100 years before, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had hoped for the day when Krishna consciousness would come to England, and Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had also presided. Now that an authorized temple of Radha and Krishna was preaching Krishna consciousness in London, it was a historic occasion for Gaudiya Vaishnavism. A long-standing order of the previous acharyas had been fulfilled. Prabhupada had sent invitations to several of his godbrothers in India. None of them had been able to come, of course, but at least they should have been pleased to learn that this dream of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had been fulfilled. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai
Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
We're reading from the Caitanya Caritamrita. It's the Vacha Lila, and it's chapter 19 entitled The Lord Instructs Srila Goswami, and it is text 156. Yadi
Vaishnava Aparadha
Ute
Hati
Mata Yadi Vaishnava Aparadha Uti Hati Mata
Yadi Vaishnava Aparadha Uti Hati Mata Apde Va Shinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Tata
Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata
Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata
Yadi Vaishnava Aparadha Uti Hati Mata
Yadi Vaishnava Aparadha Uti Hati Mata
Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata
Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata
Yadi Vaishnava Aparadha Uti Hati Mata
Yadi Vaishnava Aparadha Uti Hati Mata
Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata
Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata
I can't say it.
Yadi Vaishnava Aparada Ute Hati Mata
Yadi Vaishnava Aparadha Uti Hati Mata
Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata
Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata. Ladies.
Yadi Vaishnava Aparadha Ute Hati Mata
Yadi Vaishnava Aparadha Uti Hati Mata
Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata
Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata Yadi Vaishnava Aparadha Uti Hati Mata Upadeva Chinde Tara Sukhi Yaya Pata Yadi
Vaishnava Aparadha
Vaishnava Aparadha
an offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava.
An offense to the feet of the Vaishnava.
Ute arises.
Hati
An elephant. Mata
Mata
Upade
Roots
Chinde
Chinde
breaks. Tara
Tara
of the creeper.
Shuki
Shublinga. Yaya goes.
Tata
Translation. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the kripa of devotional service in the material world, His offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. Is this shows or is this just words?
This is
Next one.
Yeah.
Okay, responsibilities. If the devotee commits
if the devotee commits
an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava
an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava
while cultivating the creeper
while cultivating the creeper
of devotional service
of devotional service
in the material world,
in the material world,
his offense is compared
his offense is compared
to a mad elephant
to a mad elephant
that uproots the creeper
that uproots the creeper
and breaks it.
and breaks it.
In this way, the leaves
In this way, the leaves
of the creeper
of the creeper
are dried up.
are dried up.
Srila Prabhupada's purport, Ki Jai.
Aye.
Once devotional attitude increases in the association of Vaishnavas, Kandela Charana Sevi Bhakti Sannavas, Janmi Janmi Hayate Avilas. By his personal example, Narottam Das Thakur stresses that a devotee must always remember to please his predecessor Acharya. Goswamis are represented by one's spiritual master. One cannot be an Acharya, spiritual master, without following strictly in the disciplic succession of the Acharyas. One who is actually serious about advancing in devotional service should desire only to satisfy the previous Acharyas. Chaya Goswami Yara Muri Daradas. One should always think of oneself as a servant of the Acharyas, and thinking this, one should live in the society of Vaishnavas. However, if one thinks that he has become very mature and can live separate from the association of Vaishnavas, and thus gives up all related principles due to offending the Vaishnava, one's position becomes very dangerous. Offences against the holy name are explained in Adhoksaja chapter 8, verse 24. Giving up the related principles and living according to one's whims is compared to a mad elephant, which by force uproots the Bhakti-lata and breaks it to pieces. In this way, Bhakti-lata shrivels up. Such an offence is especially corrected when one disobeys the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called Guru Abhagya. The devotee must therefore be very careful not to commit offence against the spiritual master by disobeying his instructions. As soon as one is deviated from the instructions of the spiritual master, the uprooting of the Bhakti-lata begins, and gradually all the leaves dry up. Shri Caitanya Manopastam Stavakabhi Kutale Swanupagram Dati Swavagram Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, if a devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava, then that is compared to a mad elephant, uproots and breaks. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. So, basically, one's ability, Sri Ramanuja explains in the latest book he put together on the holy name, that one's ability to chant Hare Krishna is really one's ability to avoid committing 10 offenses against the holy name. So how good you are at chanting is how good you are at being offenseless. And Caitanya Maharaj says if you were to compress all the offenses into two basic attitudes, they would be respectful and serious. If you take the whole process of Krishna consciousness with respect and with all seriousness, then that usually excludes all the offences. So all the offences are there due to the inability to be serious and to be respectful. So if one is whimsical and if one is proud, whimsical and proud, they're the roots of the offences, being whimsical and being proud. And another root of the offences is considered inattention, which I guess is part of being proud and casual. Chanting Hare Krishna is never casual. It's a core activity. Never casual. Never a casual thing. If you're hanging on a rope over a 3,000-foot drop, trying to pull yourself up, it's never casual, is it? Well, I'll just try. It doesn't work out. It's life or death. It's not casual. If it is casual, then it's inattentive. If it's inattentive, then all the offences can grow nicely. And if you're making offences and you realise that you are, you decide whether to start chanting attentive japa, then attentive japa destroys all the offences. It may take some time before you're reinstated into the Lord's good graces, and so you have to tolerate feeling a little distant from the Holy Name until you are. So it requires patience as well, and patience and humility. So serious and respectful, and Vrishvaya Bhava Janateva Pasastagoshin Aprapitata Vyabhakta Janashipati Gangan Nasana Kalabudha Vedamanti Ramadvatam Adhoksaja Dhamma. That if you always regard a devotee according to his service, his steadiness in performing devotional service, irrespective of whether he is, has a good complexion, or his body is very healthy, or he's born in this part of the world, or he has this material qualification or this ability, irrespective of that. What's the important aspect to look at is a devotee's steadiness and his longevity of practicing devotional service as well, because devotees are already very rare, but even rarer are devotees that perform devotional service for a sustained period of time at a high level of devotion. That's very rare. You'll find, Sri Ramesh was just saying, it's very rare that you'll find someone that does that. So then we have to be very careful going forward. Just like if you offend Mahatma Prabhu was explaining, if he had somebody talking very critically about one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, and Mahatma Prabhu knew he'd seen some incident where Srila Prabhupada had expressed a lot of affection for this disciple. So then you have two problems. One is you've offended the disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and the other is you've offended Srila Prabhupada, because he's very dear to Srila Prabhupada. So maybe he's not very dear to you, but you have to think, well, maybe he's very dear to Krishna or Srila Prabhupada, or his spirituality. So therefore, we need to tread carefully. And Rupa Goswami is saying there's no reason to be disrespectful to anyone, even if somebody is not initiated and they're just chanting, and maybe they haven't got such a good attitude, and you don't want to really be in their association too closely. So from a distance you can respect them in the mind. Krishna, you can offer your pranams to one who's received diksha. And then for one whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others, he's not adhikari to those who are trying to associate with them and reveal our hearts to get guidance from. So Rupa Goswami is encouraging us to become familiar with the environment that we're in, and practice proactive respect to everyone, and then just be very picky about who you open your mind to and who you trust. And that's how we navigate. It's an international society for Krishna consciousness, so it means there's a spectrum of devotees with different cultures, different conditionings. But if we're always respectful, then we avoid making offences, and we can be very shrewd and astute as to who we seek guidance from. And then we have to be careful also that we don't cherry pick. Cherry picking is when you really like this guru, the way he sings. He always has his dhoti on, nice and neat, and then he reminds me of this footballer or something, and you really like him. Then he says one thing, and you don't like that, so then you cherry pick. I won't take a few of his instructions, and I like him, but he doesn't eat cheese, and I love cheese, so I don't mind the other bits about being late among the naughty, but not the cheese, but I must be the one about lawyer. He's good, he's an alcohol-free beer, but he said have to do something to him. I'll just take the bread off there. And then we just cherry pick all the things that we like and all the things we don't like. We drop those, you know. So sometimes devotees can do that. So once you take exclusive devotion to a particular spiritual master and you take diksha from him, and then he's like the whatever other instruction you're given, you go to the guru and say, is this okay? This will be said like this. Any questions or comments? Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. So I'm wondering, when offensive mentality comes up into the mind, how can we deal with it? What should we do?
When you have an offensive mentality come up in the mind, how we deal with that is the same way that we deal with anything that comes up in the mind, isn't it? We use our intelligence. We have to. First stage is sambandha. So Krishna says that there's 4 types of people that take shelter of him, and 3 of them are Kanishtas. The one that's taking shelter out of distress, the one that's taking shelter because he's inquisitive, and the one that's taking shelter because he's poverty-stricken. And then Krishna says, one who approaches me in search of absolute truth is most dear to me. So what he's saying indirectly is, if you're a Kanishta approaching Krishna, then you need to get knowledge, sambandha, as quickly as possible. And then with sambandha, you can discriminate, you can decide, is this out with what the Shastra is saying, or is this in accord with what the previous Acharyas have asked us to do? And if you don't know, then you don't have sufficient sambandha. And you can't practice abhideya until you get sambandha. Abhideya is bringing everything into practice. So if you're trying to build a little aeroplane, you get these kits, you know, and they have all the different parts. So before you can construct the aeroplane, you need all the parts, and you need the instruction leaflet showing you part 59 goes to part 60, 61 goes here, and you glue it all together. So first of all, you need the kit, you need the sambandha, and then you can start making the aeroplane. And then when you throw the aeroplane in the flies, that's prayojana. That's when it takes off. That's when your devotional service takes off. But you're on the slow boat to China if you haven't got sambandha. And the onus is to get the sambandha as quickly as possible. And if you don't have sambandha, then have a friend who does have sambandha, and he can help you.
Yeah.
My dear mind, you can say, my dear mind, you are the Vaishnava. Or you can say to the mind, well, what would you like me to do? Do you know what the mind eventually will say if you keep asking it, well, what would you like me to do? It'll say, kill yourself. That's eventually what it says. That's what it leads to. Mental health. So if you don't have mental health, then the risk of suicide increases. Eventually the mind just says, okay, just jump off that building. So better not to, with the mind, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you do what the mind says, it criticizes you. And if you don't do what it says, it criticizes you. So you must not do what it says. One devotee did do what it said, and the mind told him to leave devotional service and go to a rave. He said, are you happy now? And the mind said, do you know you're going to hell? He said, well, you said go to the rave. He said, you don't listen to me. You read Bhagavad Gita. You said, well, who's going to be? It doesn't say that in Bhagavad Gita, does it? But I thought you'd be happy. I'm disappointed. I'm not happy. Disappointed you listen to me. So, down if you do and down if you don't, so better you don't, and you just do what you're supposed to do. And anyway, the mind after a while will respect you, the mind will say, actually, you know, I think you're pretty cool, you're controlling me, you're resisting me when I have to say that things. Actually, I'm going to stop being your servant and your friend. You know? Once the mind is conquered, then it becomes a friend. But it doesn't get conquered easily, actually. It's a hard one to do. It's a long haul, generally, for most of us, because our mind has been out of control for a long time. It's not used to being reined in. The Supreme Yoga practices that by which one carefully observes the designs and movements of the mind and gradually brings them into full control. As an expert horseman trying to train a headstrong horse, first allows the horse to go on its way and pulls the path into the desired path. Paramo Yoga, it's referred to in the 11th canto as the Supreme Yoga process. So you don't just yank the reins. If you yank the reins, the horse will just flick you off. You have to be You have to kind of gently bring it onto the desired path. You have to be nice with the mind, or the mind will react. Just like if you corner a rat will attack, even though the rat is much smaller, but if it feels there's nothing else. The most dangerous emotion is fear, actually, interestingly enough. People think it's anger, but people do much worse things due to fear than anger, So we want to allay the mind's fears. We have to counsel the mind, reassure the mind. And that's why we have so much emphasis on studying the books, so that we can have the proper knowledge, the proper sambandha, so that the mind is satisfied by that. And that's what Mahatma Prabhu is now saying to his disciples when they come to him with problems. He's asking them, first of all, how much time are you spending each day reading Srila Prabhupada's books? And if they're not doing it very much, then that's usually proportionate to how many problems they're having. And the only problem really is the mind. They say that when you're chanting Hare Krishna, it's a very simple arena. There's you, the jiva, and there's the holy name, and in between is the mind. And somehow or other, you've got to get to the holy name before the mind rugby tackles you. You're trying to chant the mind's like, no, it's good. You never know to chant. You never know to do it. And it's the wrong time of the day. You're out of it anyway. You're too offensive. And so you're trying to sidestep the mind. Connecting the holy name. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Vishwambara Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. This isn't necessarily about this, but just a question I had.
Oh, okay.
Does the pure devotee have sukriti? Does that affect them, or is it not the same?
Sukriti means pious activity. Su means good, and kriti means merit. So good merit. So sukriti, of course, there's different types of sukriti, isn't it? There's devotional sukriti. If you come to a devotional service and you love reading the books, Rupa Goswami says that means you have sukriti from a past life. So generally, sukriti doesn't fall out of the sky. It's something which grows over a sustained period of time, unless you get kripa, unless you get mercy. But if it's your acquisition of sukriti, then it may start off as mundane sukriti. Like Krishna says in the 12th chapter, if you can't do this, then do this, if you can't do that, then do that. Basically, it ends up saying, okay, well, just try and be a nice guy, and wash your socks every day. We'll see where it goes from there. And so from that basic level of piety, you can become more and more refined to the point where you're just 100% absorbed in sin and Krishna. But you have to come to a higher level of consciousness, from mode of ignorance to mode of passion. You can't go from mode of ignorance into the mode of goodness. You have to go through the mode of passion, and then you can come into the mode of goodness. And then the mode of goodness, you sustain the mode of goodness for a long period of time, and then that eliminates all the unwanted things, and then it comes into the suicide, and then it becomes pure goodness. Then the sukriti becomes pure, you're getting pure merit. And even then, your sadhana can take you to the point of asakti, but to go beyond the sakti, you need Krishna's mercy. So even if you're chanting Shivanam, and you've been a good boy for a long time, then it's up to Krishna. And that's like knocking on the door. Now you find that you're chanting Shivanam, but the door has a handle on the inside. The first two doors have handles on the outside. That's the door of bodily control, and then you go to the next door, and that's the door of mental control, and then you go to the next door. And that's the door of the heart. Hi, Bob, Krishna, I'm back. Can I come in now, baby? Come in, boys. Come on, please. And Krishna's got the handle on the inside, and he only wants it on either sides. And then it goes from the sakti into Bhav and then to pray. So you can only go so far with sadhana. So how important it is how we associate with devotees, and especially pure devotees. The problem with pure devotees, you may not know you're rubbing shoulders with one. They're everywhere. And sometimes you don't realize, they didn't realize Srila Prabhupada was a pure devotee. He thought he was just Abu Baba. Abu Baba! That's what he was referred to as. And the next minute, the Bhagavad was over in Vrindavan, and he shows one of Prabhupada's couples, and he goes, Abu Baba! He sees the Krishna Shabbat. Abu Baba! He did it! Abu Baba! He was the last one anyone thought would do it. So if you're not so elevated in consciousness, then best to play safe, which you don't know. Because if you want Krishna's mercy to go beyond the Sakti, then you will be very careful not to offend anyone, which is a very big thing. You don't really lose anything by being respectful, do you? Oh, Prabhu, I'm really, what's wrong, Prabhu? Oh, I've been too humble this week. I'm supposed to be so humble and respectful. It's really wearing me down, Prabhu. You don't really come off the last thing if you're being respectful and being humble. It's the other way that you have problems. Yes, back to that.
What to do when we suspect or that we know that we have committed an offence?
What do we do with
If we suspect or if we know that we have committed an offence.
Well, we can take it for granted that we are doing all the time. That's why every morning we pay obeisances to ourselves. And every morning we try and practically be happy, one of the problems with the association of devotees is we blame others for the fact that we're not happy. But they say if you're relying on anybody else but yourself to make you happy, then you're going to feel let down. So you have to be proactive in your happiness. You have to decide in the morning, today I am going to be so happy, no matter what takes place. I'm so grateful that I'm here. I'm so grateful to get an opportunity. So I'm loving. And if you're happy, devotional service performed in a morose way is offensive. Shouldn't Papa only want to go to I order you to be happy. And both look really down. I order you to be happy. So you have to force yourself to be happy because it's offensive otherwise. Imagine if I said, hey, you just won £800 million on the lottery. Oh, God. Why did you have to tell me today? I was having a great day too. But you wouldn't not be better. And multiply that by 1 billion times, and that's what the chance for devotional service is. So you just be deliriously happy. But because you don't have enough information, enough knowledge to appreciate how rare it is and how fortunate we are. Any other questions or comments? So we have to just rely on ourselves to be happy. We can't blame anybody else actually for not being happy, even if they do spill the down our dirty. So it's up to us how we react to that. Whether we get angry and offensive or we think, oh, well, thank you so much. I was probably due to get thrown into a vat of boiling hot fat and you just relieved me of that calm with this tiny sprinkle of down. I'm so calm. Could I just pay my blessings as an embrace you for your kindness? And you're always happy. And you have to stay happy to be enthusiastic, actually. Have you ever seen anyone being sad enthusiastically? Haribo, Ujjay, Ujjay. You can't be enthusiastic and sad, can you? Do you ever notice that? So when Rupa Goswami is saying Utsaha, he's asking you to be happy. No, I don't feel like being happy. I just want to wait until I'm feeling like being happy. Or you could be waiting a long time. Well, that's fine. Or you could just be happy and then suddenly realize, oh, this feels really good. Actually, this feels really happy. Why didn't I think of this before? Wow, this is really good. I'm going to do this more often. And it's actually an austerity to be happy. It's referred to as an austerity of the mind. Sat is an austerity of the mind to be satisfied. You can only be satisfied if you're happy, you see. So an austerity of the mind is to be happy. And the mind, I don't want to be happy. No. He was so rude to me. He called me a fatty. I'm not going to be. So it's a prerogative choice. The problem is we have freedom of choice, but we want freedom from choice. If you want freedom from choice, then you get an animal birth. Because the animal, the dog's not thinking. I mean, the dog, you know, do you remember the dog that had no eyes and only 3 legs and was really skinny? His name was Lucky. But the dog's just always happy. You never see, even if the dog's lost a leg, it's running around wagging its tail, really happy. You know, it's not like antidepressants because it can't cope with things. It's just, because that is our natural state to be in. The jiva is naturally happy and optimistic. And we may feel that it's unnatural and it's artificial, but actually what is unnatural and artificial is to think that we can be happy by acquiring material things. That's the propaganda, you see. That's the consumer party line. Oh, I'm really depressed. Well, how big is the car? Well, it's about 30 foot long. Well, that's the problem. That is the problem, isn't it? What size engine? 1.5? Well, of course you're unhappy. 1.5, 13 foot, are you kidding? 26 foot long, 3-litre engine. Get in that and tell me you're unhappy. So he gets in that. I'm still unhappy. What size is it? 26? 3? 52 foot long. It's, well, actually, it's obvious, isn't it? It must be a 6-litre engine. So that's the illusion. Then are we happy? And then you keep acquiring all these things. And then, you know, every year it's like, it starts wearing thin after a while. Christmas, doesn't it? You start realizing it's not going to be that much fun. It wasn't last year. I went back on Christmas. I'd just been in the devotee group for 2, I joined in September, and I thought I'd go back and see my family for a loving exchange at Christmas. You know. So I was in Oban Road in Liverpool, and my family decided they'd do something different this Christmas that they'd never done before. They'd get drunk. Actually, they'd done it every Christmas, but for some reason they thought this was really novel. So they got drunk, and then my mum had a punch-up with my sister, and I was standing there, like, I was sitting there actually, trying not to watch a film that was on the TV. And watching mum and her sister having a punch-up in the living room. And I was like, I remember thinking, okay, that chapter's closed now, as you can see, because that's the highlight the whole year is we get together and we have a great time at Christmas. And if that's the highlight, then everything else is like less than that. So yeah, we cannot find happiness by acquiring material things, by trying to stimulate the material senses. The happiness that we're looking for is already there. The real present is the present, actually, because that present is eternal. That moment lasts forever. We can just be in this moment now and appreciate that this has always existed and it always will exist. And it's interesting, we're talking about offenses, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, all offenses start when we fall into the time factor, past, present, and future. If you remain in the eternal present, then you don't have arguments. He says arguments will lead to anarthas, and then anarthas lead to offenses. So you unplug, you short circuit the whole thing by just being situated in the eternal present. Because in the eternal present, nothing can threaten you, you see. There's nothing to feel unhappy about, because nobody can take that away from you. Because that was your gift that you were given. That present is the greatest present that anyone can give you, eternal life. And identifying with the time factor puts you onto this material plane. So we transcend it, we realize our eternality, that we never did come into existence, and we never ceased existence. We just always are, forever and ever, always are. And that's the platform that we can really be happy in, the eternal platform. And that's what we're fighting to regain what's been taken from us by the illusory energy, what's distracted us from contemplation of our eternal nature. And you think, well, because the material mind can't make sense of it. It's like, what you mean, the microphone should have always been there. Yeah, the microphone should have always been there. No, what's really to make the microphone, you can't do it. So the magnet wants to come out of the mouth from somewhere, like plastic, must be from oil. Everything material has to have come from somewhere. And it's such a part of nature because we want to be in a house with little flowers around the door and have cuddly little children and nice happy dogs and everyone's happy and we all give ourselves a cuddle. But it's only a glimpse of what's in the eternal world. That's what it is, like that all the time. Berger, a Russian philosopher, called it the glamour. The glamour moment, the glamour image. He said the glamour image is the anticipation of sense gratification, and it's a glimpse of what eternity is. He was saying we had this poster, this man is just coming home from work, and it's all dark blues, and the snow's then it's all cold, and he's got his jacket on, and he's just opening the door, and there's a beautiful golden light coming out, the coal fire's on, the wife's in the background making some fresh bread for him. And the kids are there waiting to give him a cuddle, and he's just about to open the door, And it's like, if that mum could last forever. And if I buy these fags, that could be me. So that's what the poster. Then he opens the door, and then the glamour image goes, that moment goes, and the wife turns around, she's got rollers in, and the fag hanging out of that. What time do you call this? That's the material world. And all the time we're thinking, no, this is going to be it. This is going to be it forever. And I get this. But it's a shame because people are being exploited, because they are, we want that, we are soul, we want that. And that's where we belong, where there's no reason why the microphone is like this, it just is like this. The sky is blue, it just is blue. The sun is round and it shines and flowers grow, it just is that way. That is just how it is. That's the spiritual world. Nobody's gone up to Krishna saying, where did you come from? Did you used to be a homogeneous God? Are you from the cosmic growth? Are you a dwarf from the name? It's just the way it is. He's got a goatee, he's got these marks on his feet. That's just the way it is. I mean, you wouldn't have to do anything with so well. Why is the sky blue? I mean, I'm not going anywhere until I can get off of this. Why couldn't it be that? That's my favorite color. Why is the grass green? And why the clouds making? I'm not going anywhere with this until I work it all out. Or you just get on the mic and accept it, that's what it is. And here's a pint of milk which you can do from the rest of it's been eaten, and that's what it is. And when you smile, you can lips go like this, and she'll be happy. And then comes like, oh, I can go, I can't. You just accept it. You must be happy, got a smile on his face. And so we get on with life. Yes, come over in the key.
Haribo! Let's go to Dr. Krishna Prabhu ki.
Hare Krishna.